UFC 257 is in the books. Let's call it what it is, man. This card was dog shit before the co-main event and main event. I was staring at my wall, praying for these fights to be over. I was so bored in these first few fights. I don't know if it's the Conor McGregor effect or the co-main event effect, the Chandler effect. I just couldn't wait for those. Anything else, didn't want to see it, man. I'd pay extra money if I could just watch those two. If I could fast forward and just watch those two fights live, though. I know I could record it later, but the card is straight up boring. Till you got to the main event and co-main event. I'm talking watching paint dry, fucking boring. So let's get right into the freaking co-main event. Can you name a better UFC debut than Michael Chandler? Tough fight. Dan Hooker's a bad mamma jamma. Also, UFC, get rid of the graphics. Listen to your boy right now. When he walks out and use those stupid Nickelodeon graphics on the walkout, no more. Get rid of it. That shit was so stupid. It ruins what we're trying to do. That was terrible. Get rid of that. So, yeah, Michael Chandler, Dan Hooker. Chandler, a dog coming into this fight. And I think there was a lot of kind of variables with Michael Chandler coming into the fight. If you don't know, you just don't know the sport that well because you probably didn't watch a lot of Chandler fights, maybe in Bellator. He's the face of Bellator for a long time. But there's always kind of this weird thing when a fighter, if they're the face of Bellator, they're a big-time Bellator fighter, and they go to the UFC, or a UFC fighter who's marketed as a UFC fighter comes over to Bellator. There's always kind of that weird period, right? And so for Michael Chandler, it's a little different because it's not like he's really old or he has all these injuries or that he's coming off back-to-back losses. Nah, man. He just KO'd Ben Henderson, a UFC fave. And, he's been doing work over there, man. He's a multi-time world champion. They give him Dan Hooker. He was on Food Truck Diaries, and he goes, I want Tony Ferguson or Gaethje or Conor or bust. UFC said, cool story. You're getting Dan Hooker. And just on paper, not a great fight for Chandler, man. A long, rangy guy, great cardio, dangerous elbows, dangerous knees. And my word, Dan Hooker almost showed too much respect, He just didn't look like the normal Dan Hooker that fought Dustin Poirier, even though he lost that fight. He was game as fuck in that. I thought Chandler looked, phenomenal. As far as 2 minutes and 30 seconds in the first round, we didn't get to see too much. He was throwing bombs from the get-go, fainted low, and came up high with just a fucking bomb. I didn't mind his post-fight speech either. The Ric Flair vibe, I thought it was good. I thought he got on that mic and was like, I thought it was pretty good. Now, what they're going to do with him next, we'll get into after we wrap up the Conor Dustin fight. But definitely a ton of options. And when you're a former world champion and you're coming over and you have a high salary, high contract, not salary. These guys aren't a salary. You're going to get big time fights. And there's some big time fights for him, which we'll get into. Main event. Man, if you listen to anything I said leading up to the fight, I was on, I think, TSN Radio in Toronto, Luke Thomas. There was Luke Thomas on Coast to Coast. Shout out to Thick Luke. Going into this, there was a lot of unknowns with Conor McGregor. And I think in hindsight, and obviously it's easier to say now, we're on the other end of this fight, but going into this, of course he lost, right? Of course he lost. I think you're talking about a guy, I think 5 rounds in 4 years, something like that, 4 rounds in 5 years. His last fight was a year ago, and he fought an older cowboy, Cerrone. In order to be the best, in order to be in this race of the lightweight division in the UFC, which is the deepest division in the world out of any organization, anyone who says less is full of shit, or they're just haters. There is nothing like 155 pounds in the UFC. It's the creme de la creme. It's the very best 155-pound human beings on the planet competing at the highest level. For us to think that Conor can do his stuff outside of the ring, fight every once now and then, fight 5 rounds in 4 years, and then jump in there and fight a dog in Dustin Poirier, who's just been scrapping for everything inside that octagon. And to expect him to go in there and compete, and I'm ashamed of it. It's insane, dude. It's insane. It's fucking insane. That's no different than like Tom Brady, right? Won this weekend. That's no different than Tom Brady in, a year ago. And remember, he destroyed Don Cerrone a year ago playing the fucking Arizona Cardinals, but only playing 1 quarter, and tearing it up. And you're like, damn, you look good. And then he sits out an entire year and then is playing the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. You'd be like, God, I don't know, man. I feel like he's gonna be pretty rusty. The timing, the plays, is he football ready? Can he take the beatings? Like, there's a whole lot that goes into this. And so, the only guy I've really heard you say ring rust isn't a real thing is Dominic Cruz. Listen to Dominic Cruz. Don't listen to me. He's one of the greatest to ever do it. But outside Dominic Cruz, ring rust is real, man. There's only one way on the planet to get better at mixed martial arts, and that's by doing it. Not in a gym, not in your garage, not in an octagon that you have in your backyard, not by trying to, have family members around, and you bring in a guy and you guys go for. That's all fine and dandy. The only way to get good at mixed martial arts and compete at the highest level is by doing it, and he's not doing it. Now, why isn't he doing it? It's not because Conor McGregor didn't want to fight or because he has all these distractions outside the octagon. He wanted to fight. He begged the UFC for fights. He goes, last year, man, I want to fight 4 times. UFC said, cool, bro. Sorry. You can fight Don Cerrone. That's all we got for you. And then people made fun of him because the DMs came out. He was like, dude, let me fight Diego. Conor's a smart individual. He knows in order to compete at the highest level, he has to stay active. He has to get the reps in. He has to get on a plane. He has to travel. He has to stay in the hotel. He has to go through the warm-ups. He has to go in that locker room. He needs to deal with those nerves. He needs to make that walk. He needs to feel the lights. He needs to see when it's for real. When it's for real. And he knows that. And he knew that this was trouble down the road. And he begged the UFC for fights. Did he not? Then he was like, fuck it, man. Now I'm going to retire. Because he knows that it's insane to think that you can compete at this level with the Justin Gaethjes, the Dustin Poiriers, the Tony Fergusons, the Dan Hookers, the Michael Chandlers, the Charles Oliveras. It's insane. The Paul Felders. It's insane to think that you can just chill and get 1 round on your belt and then go in there and compete with those guys. You just can't, man. You just can't. That'd be like not doing stand-up for a year and then shooting a HBO special or a Netflix special. Not putting the grind on the road, not getting up, seeing what works. Oh, this doesn't work. All right, let me change this. Let me change this approach. Seeing a fan's reaction, getting the audience reaction, and you're going to dial in your set based off the feel of real life comedy. So for him to go in there and for us and for the UFC odd makers, and I fucking told you guys, this is a pick 'em fight. And even I was off on that. This ain't a pick 'em fight. This should have been heavy, Dustin Poirier. Again, all hindsight, when you look up what led to this, of course he fucking lost, man. Of course. Did anybody feel bad for Conor? Am I the only psychopath there?
No, of course. It was crazy to see his face like that.
I felt terrible for him. And think about this. If you're a Conor McGregor nut hugger like I am, this is the first time he was beat at his own game. Every other single loss inside the UFC, was submission. We've never seen him get beat at his own game. He fancies himself a striker. We've never seen him get knocked out on the feet. Ever.